What's the most satisfying karma you've seen a landlord get? The landlord, a guy named Mr. Croft, was a predator who disguised himself as a property manager. He owned half the low-income apartment buildings in our neighborhood and treated his tenants like a personal inconvenience. He bragged at a city council meeting once about his zero-tolerance policy, which was just a fancy way of saying he'd evict you if your welcome mat was the wrong color. He thrived on technicalities. His leases were minefields of obscure clauses designed to be broken. You put a nail in the wall to hang a picture. That's an unauthorized modification, grounds for eviction. Your guest parked in the wrong spot for 5 minutes. Lease violation. He wasn't just a stickler for rules. He seemed to enjoy the power it gave him over people who had nowhere else to go. His next target was Mrs. Rodriguez, a woman in her 70s who had lived in the building for 20 years. She was a retired schoolteacher who lived on a fixed income and used a walker to get around. She was quiet, kind, and paid her rent on time every single month. Her crime was her small garden. For years, she had maintained a few pots of tomatoes and herbs on her tiny concrete patio. It was her pride and joy. Suddenly, Croft decided the pots were a pathway obstruction and a violation of aesthetic standards. He sent her a formal notice to cure or quit. She had 3 days to remove the plants or face eviction. Everyone in the building knew this was nonsense. The pots weren't blocking anything. This was about Croft wanting to renovate her unit and double the rent, and he needed a legal excuse to get her out. Mrs. Rodriguez was terrified. This was her home. Moving would be physically and financially impossible for her. She tried to reason with him, but he wouldn't take her calls. This is where I came in. I'm a paralegal, and I've been helping tenants in the building document Croft's harassment for months. I knew we couldn't fight him on the absurd pathway obstruction claim. The lease was too vague. We needed something more. We needed Croft to show his true colors. I noticed he had recently installed new high-tech doorbell cameras on every unit, including his own office on the first floor. He told everyone it was for tenant security, but we all knew it was so he could spy on us. That camera was my target. I told Mrs. Rodriguez to do nothing. Don't move the pots. I knew Croft's ego wouldn't let him just file the paperwork. He'd have to come and gloat. This was our trap. The earned discovery would be the video evidence of his own predictable, ugly behavior. On the 4th day, just as expected, Croft came marching up to Mrs. Rodriguez's apartment, clipboard in hand, ready to serve her with the eviction notice himself. Her son, who was visiting, answered the door. I had coached him on what to do. He was polite but firm, explaining that his mother was disabled and that the pots were her only hobby. He mentioned the Fair Housing Act and reasonable accommodations. That's when Croft snapped. He had no idea his own camera, strategically placed just a few feet away, was recording every word and every gesture. I don't care if she's in a wheelchair or on a ventilator. Croft's voice, captured in crystal-clear audio, began to rise. This isn't a nursing home. The rules are the rules. Her hobby is making my property look like a slum. He then launched into a vile, discriminatory tirade. He called her a leech and said he was tired of people like her using their disabilities as an excuse to get away with everything. He mocked her accent. He threatened to have the sheriff drag her and her walker out onto the street. It was all there, a perfect 10-minute monologue of pure, unadulterated housing discrimination. Her son just stood there, calmly letting him dig his own grave. He didn't argue, he didn't raise his voice. He just let the camera roll. That evening, her son uploaded the video to social media. He didn't add any dramatic music or fancy editing. He just posted the raw footage with a simple title. My landlord, Mr. Croft, trying to evict my 74-year-old disabled mother over her tomato plants. The reaction was explosive. It went viral overnight. Local news stations picked it up. Disability rights groups shared it. People were horrified and disgusted. Croft's phone number and office address were flooded with calls and emails. A protest was organized outside the building. The city's housing authority launched an immediate investigation, not just into Mrs. Rodriguez's case, but into every eviction Croft had filed in the last 5 years. The poetic justice was just beautiful. The very tool he had installed to intimidate his tenants became the instrument of his public humiliation and downfall. He was forced to drop the eviction, and the last I heard, he was drowning in lawsuits and facing a federal discrimination charge. All because he couldn't resist one last, ugly taste of power right in front of his own camera.